fighter jets, bullets, light. These are all things faster than the speed of sound. But one thing that is not faster than the speed of sound, but shares its name, is a little thing called the Ford Mustang Mach 1. In 1968, Ford introduced a new engine to the Mustang in order to combat the ever-growing muscle car war against GM and Chrysler. It was a 7-liter, naturally aspirated V8 monster called Cobra Jet. This road-legal NASCAR engine made 335 horsepower and 440 torque, or measured with a dyno, 410 to 450 horsepower. Now, Ford realized that the badge, GT, simply wasn't enough for such a monumental engine. And, well, it's a Cobra Jet. And what do jets do in the 60s? They break the speed of sound, also known as Mach 1. And the Mach 1 options package replaced the GT badge, which wouldn't return until 1982. I did not know that until doing research, but yeah, the GT badge did not come back until 1982. And you could get 4 different engine options with the Mach 1. 2 versions of the 351, the 390 V8, or the big bad 428 Cobra Jet. And since it's a massive NASCAR engine, those who spec'd the 428 also got competition suspension, thicker sway bars, shock tower reinforcements, front and rear aero from Ford's Trans Am racing department, a 4-speed manual gearbox, a blacked out hood because it looks sick and it reduces glare into the cabin, and a fully functional signature shaker hood. In 1969, this nearly 2-ton muscle car did 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. To prove that it meant business, Mickey Thompson and Danny Ungais set 295 Bonneville speed records in the 500-mile and 24-hour classes with a trio of Mach 1s. It was so successful, they sold nearly 73,000 in its first year. You do not get that many sales from high-spec options packages generally. Usually it's the mid-specs or the base models that are super popular, but this is a high-spec. Not quite Shelby, but pretty damn high. And it lasted all the way until 1971, when, like the rest of the Mustang lineup, it got a refresh. You see, the American public wanted bigger cars, so Ford gave them a bigger Mustang. Literally, they just added a foot to the engine bay. You can practically fit some luggage in front of the radiator, the space between the radiator and the grille. I wouldn't advise that because cooling would be a bit of an issue, but it's massive. But in fairness, the engine also got more massive, enlarging from 428 cubic inches to 429. So it's better, right? Not really. You see, it made the same horsepower, but because of the extra length and the safety bumpers, it was a lot heavier. And the Ram air option was dropped in 1972 because of regulations, and the entire 7-liter engine range and the fancy interior went along with it. So the Mach 1 had a base interior and a max of a 351 Windsor. And by 1973, that 351 V8 was making less than 300 horsepower as the gas crisis began to set hold. But unlike all of its other muscle car competitors, the Mustang and the Mach 1 did not die during the first energy crisis. Not physically, anyway. It was more of a metaphorical death, because the Mustang 2 was kicked from its own platform onto the Pinto platform which meant the Mach 1 had 2.8 liters of V6 Fury, making 105 horsepower. Yes, 1975 Mach 1 fans, the 302 V8 did return with a boisterous 140 horsepower, giving it a 0 to 60 of 10.1 seconds, or about as fast as a Ford EcoSport. It was so bad that it killed the Mach 1 badge until 2003. And this is where things start to become full circle, because in 1993, Ford replaced a 20-plus-year-old 5.0 V8 with their new series of modular V8s. Now initially, the SVT Cobra was chosen to lead this all-aluminum engine into the 21st century. But the Cobra sort of went back to power-hungry cast-iron V8 supercharged monsters, which meant Ford needed a new badge to offer this new engine in. Sound familiar? Ford thought the same and relaunched the Mach 1 to champion the engine for 1 year with a max production of 6,500 cars. Except they didn't. They completely lied and made 16,000 plus cars over the course of 2 years. But that meant more people got to experience the new Mach 1, which was pretty damn great. 4.6 liters, naturally aspiration, V8, 305 horsepower, 320 foot-pounds of torque. For less than $30,000 in 2001, you could get a car that did the quarter mile in 13.5 seconds. That's pretty good by today's standards, and that was 20 years ago. Now, that is helped by its low weight. It was actually one of the lightest Mustangs of the era, just 3,400 pounds roughly. But at the end of the day, make no mistake, it was definitely a muscle car. Unlike the SVT Cobras, it did not have independent rear suspension, so it pulled just 0.85 G in the corners. It's a bit of a barge, I think is the word we're looking for. But after 2 years of production, they pulled the plug, and it would not show up for another 15 years. Waiting for the right time, which is definitely not slapping its badge on an electric Edge and Tesla dress-up. Stupid Mach-E going to... Luckily for Ford, they got their act together after the Mach-E travesty, and earned some redemption when they released the new Mach 1 earlier this year. Or did they? Because it's not really a Mach 1. The engine is the same as the Bullet. Then the oil filter system, intake manifold, front subframe, rear subframe are from a Shelby GT350, while the cooling system, rear axle suspension, and diffuser are from the Shelby GT500. And it's missing the iconic shaker hood that even the 2003 version had. Sure, it makes 480 horsepower and is the fastest Mach 1 ever to 60 by a whole second, but it really, to me anyway, just seems like a less cool, reskinned Bullet. The one thing I will commend it on, honestly, is for continuing the budget performance car of the Mustang lineup. It's $53,000, and while it's certainly not as cheap as the 2003 model, it is better handling, and $20,000 cheaper than the GT500 it shares parts with. And think about it this way. They recently lapped it around the Nordschleife, and this $53,000 muscle car, it's really a sports car, but muscle car, did a sub 8 minute lap of the Nürburgring. Less than 8 minutes for a Mustang that's not even the Shelby. That is one hell of an achievement that cements itself within the incredible Mach 1 lineage.